Project managers are drowning in complex strategy assessments, stakeholder alignment, and endless documentation. Yet most are still doing it the manual, time-consuming way. In this episode, we show you exactly how to set up Claude as a powerful project ally and run a live trial on a real strategy assessment use case so you can start delivering faster, higher quality outcomes today. Welcome to the Powering Projects podcast, where we explore the strategies, stories, and insights that make projects thrive. I'm your host, DK, and today we're diving into the topic of agentic AI and the revolution that is reshaping the world and possibly project delivery. But before we kick off, join the project pros who put their careers first by subscribing to Powering Projects free on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts today. And never miss the strategies that cut project waste and accelerate your next win. And today we are jumping straight into a live demonstration. So first and foremost, setting up Claude. Now, it is really as easy as getting a subscription online. However, the second element to all of this is to get it onto your desktop. So they do recommend that you get the Claude desktop app. So I've gone ahead and done all of that. And then in order to set this up correctly for the work that I want to do in the future, I've done a couple of key things. So number one, if you are trying to set up Claude for CoWork, I highly recommend that you just ask Claude how to do it. And it will give you really, really clear instructions, as you can see here on my screen. So I started out with, I need you to give me some instructions on how to set up my computer for Claude CoWork. I think I'm missing some vital pieces, and I really have no idea. Can you give me some instructions, please? And Claude was amazing. It gave me a setup guide, so what you need to do first, and it literally took me through step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, and took me through everything. So number 1, downloading the Claude desktop app, which I've done. Number 2, sign up and initial setup. So signing into your existing Claude account or your Google account, and you'll be prompted to create these shortcuts and a Claude menu bar launcher, which was great. Number 3, switch to Claude CoWork. Now, remembering, using Claude Chat is one thing, but using Claude CoWork required me to go through these setup steps that you are looking at now. So just be clear, they are not the same. There are different setup steps to get CoWork working, and that's what you're looking at here. That's what we're going through. All right, so step 3, switching to Claude CoWork mode, and as you can see now, I can click into Claude CoWork, and it is a different capability than Okay, number 4, first round VM download, so the initial setup. Now, this VM download happens in the background in your computer. I literally just had to give it permission to set itself up, and it downloads in the background, and then you restart your machine, and it's ready to go. Step 5, setting up your global instructions. So this is a power move for me. So it's settings, CoWork within the Claude desktop, clicking edit next to the global instructions and type in your instructions. I'll give you a look at a couple of those in just a minute. And then there's some key things to know. So the great thing about doing this is that now I have Claude on my phone. I can use voice in order to interact with Claude on my phone. And if my desktop is on, it will execute things for me that I've just recorded on my phone, because there is a link between Claude on my telephone and Claude on my desktop. So it's fantastic. I can't tell you. It's really quite amazing. All right, so that was number 1. Asking Claude how to get set up, getting the desktop app up and running, getting CoWork up and running. After that, what I did was I set up my projects. So if you have a look here, how to set up Claude was an example project that was already there. But then I also set up all of these different projects, and each of them has its own instructions. So I'm going to give you just an example here, and we'll choose Powering Projects. So as you can see over here, there is a purpose and some memory. So I wanted to maintain a memory of my conversations, because I go and interview people, I set things up, then potentially I don't go back and actually interview them for a few months. And then after I do that, there's editing and social media posts and all sorts of other things that happen in the background. So really important for me to set up all of the key elements. I gave it some really clear instructions as to who I am, the vision and mission for Powering Projects. And I'll actually show you this. It is my podcast. What do we actually explore? What are my taglines? What are my key themes? What's my tone? What are the kinds of tasks I'm going to ask it to do? And here's what we build together. So we research interviewees, we develop podcast scripts and episode structures, we turn raw transcripts into published content or polished content. I create social media context for X and LinkedIn. I do lots of brainstorming and refining. I craft podcast episodes and talking points. So lots of different things there, but I have really explained the project to Claude so that it has context that it can rely on. And in here as well, I've been able to attach some files. So what you'll see is I've attached my interview template, some content that I've created in the past, all just examples of what I do and how I do it. So that is the projects. But then there is a second element to all of this. And if you go over here to customize and into skills, what you'll see here is I've created a whole heap of skills. Okay, so for Powering Projects in particular, there is show note skills. There is a project editing skill here where I'm going to get it to try and help me edit some of the videos, which takes a hell of a lot of time. For people out there that do video editing, I think I spend more time on the editing than I do anything else in the entire life cycle of creating a podcast. And then I also have creating content for production, which is my scripts, my questions, my research, all of those kinds of things. So really, really important. But what you'll also see in here is that I have created lots of skills around project delivery. So I've got everything from resource management to risk management. And all of this is around giving Claude context as to what I do and what's important when I do that work. So what do I need to understand? What do I need to master in order to be able to do my trade? And I've done that for each of these. So if we go over to management control, it's gone through and obviously provided the context only for management control and benefits management as another example. So as you'll see here, it has a description and then it has the actual content as a markdown file. Now, this is really important. And if you want to create some of these markdown files, all you need to do to create the markdown files is ask it. What I did with all of my MD files was that I created them not only in Claude, but I also saved them on my desktop. So I have a file within my business structure that says these are all my skills files and I've saved them all there. The reason is I may not work with Claude forever, but I don't want to lose this really valuable context. So from that perspective, I've created them in two places, in Claude and on my own personal drive so that I have them forever. Okay, so that's what we did there. So that is the end of the setup phase. And just remembering, ask Claude to give you some help, get the desktop app, and make sure that you also sign in on your iPad and your phone. It's really going to come in handy in the future when you start using voice to prompt Claude to do things for you. And you're going to love it because there is nothing better than walking around the house, cleaning, and being able to talk to Claude using your phone, just using a voice message, and being able to talk about the different things that you want to do during the week. And then Claude goes away and does whatever it's asked you to do on your desktop. And it's just a fantastic experience. It's really worthwhile doing. And then the last two things was creating your projects and creating your skills, which is your markdown files. Really important that you give it lots and lots of context about what you do. Okay, so moving on from the skills, I now am going to talk to you a little bit about voice. So voice is really, really interesting. And I'm going to give you a bit of an example here. So this morning, Claude, on my telephone, I started a new chat and I said, I want to start using Claude CoWork to help me with projects and project delivery. And I want to see if I can start using Claude CoWork to execute project work on a daily schedule without me needing to prompt you all the time. So I want to understand, should I create some personas in Claude CoWork that I can use, or what's the best way of setting it up so I can basically set you a schedule of these things that should happen And then I can engage with you using email. Like, I just want to understand how is the best way to get Claude to help me execute project work. And as you'll see now here on screen, it has transcribed that chat from my phone to my desktop. So I've got access to exactly the same chat, and it's given me some instructions. So setting up Claude CoWork for project execution. So what it's basically saying to me is, it's a great question, which is wonderful. And yes, it's giving me some context from Aliora, which is my business where I tried to build a capability to execute project work, which, by the way, is a work in progress. But the great thing about that was that it gave me some validation about what I was doing. So it understood my context. It understood that I have a business that actually does this, and it's creating that connection. What Claude CoWork can and can't do today. So CoWork is session-based. It doesn't run on a schedule autonomously. It responds when you engage. So a daily schedule that runs without you isn't native to CoWork itself at the moment. But here's the good news. CoWork is excellent at executing complex project work fast when you do engage, and you can design your workflow so that the engagement takes 2 minutes and not 2 hours, which is fantastic. So the right architecture for what you're describing. So this was really interesting because what it's basically saying is have a schedule or trigger in N8N, the intelligence and execution through the Claude API via N8N, which actually does the PM work. Then the memory storage in Supabase. So what it's saying here is that I should store my project risks, decisions, minutes. So all of that data that we collate in a really structured way in Supabase, which is a database app. And then the interface is through email or CoWork. And that's how we push new information into the system. So the wonderful thing about this was it really validated that what I was doing with Aliora was absolutely correct. The only difference was that I was using Replit as my front end instead of Claude API. So I am definitely on the right track with what I'm trying to develop. So then I asked it, should I actually create personas? And what I mean by personas is, who is the person that's doing the work and what context do you need to have about that person and what they know, right, about the work that they do? So Claude has validated that persona setup is a good thing to do. So yes, create personas, Claude projects or Claude configurations, and here's what they'd suggest. So number one was Aliora Project Intelligence Agent, which really handles the risk updates, the issue logs, the meeting minutes, the processing, the action tracking triggers. You email or paste the minutes and notes. So what it's basically saying is, I need to provide you with the context from today, which is building on the context from yesterday, and I will then go and do the work that you're triggering with that information. Number two, portfolio analyst will handle weekly portfolio snapshots, stop, pause, continue, accelerate decisions, CapEx concentration checks, and the trigger is a weekly N8N schedule pull that pulls the data from Supabase and generates a report. Now I'm going to take you through that in just a minute. And then number three is the governance scribe. So that handles agenda minutes, action items, board reports, raid updates, triggers. I forward the meeting minutes and it extracts and updates those registers. So the immediate next steps is it's asking me to do all of this. Now, I'm going to pause on that for just a moment because I wanted to actually show you where I'm heading with this, because the intent of everything I am doing at the moment is really to understand, can AI be the project ally that we need it to be? And it's the reason why I named my tool Aliora, because I know that it cannot do everything that I do automatically. It just can't. I can operate in that space that says, based on new inputs, based on new context, based on parallel thinking, I am able to understand what is the clear next step and what's the most important thing as a project manager that I need to work on right now, tomorrow, next week. And I can reprioritize that in real time. At the moment, AIs don't appear to be able to do that. It's really waiting on you to give it instruction or schedule something that is really, really defined and distinct. So I know that it has capability that is definitely going to reduce the amount of hours that I spend doing manual work on projects, but it definitely cannot replace all of the thinking that I do in order to execute projects. And it can't replace the in the moment reprioritizing, understanding things across multiple sectors. But in saying that, it is really good at creating connections. So definitely space for AI, definitely still space for humans. It's just about how do we, synthesize all of that and create this perfect partnership. And that's what I'm trying to build. All right, so I'm going to go back and tell you something else, just as a little bit of context about the progress that I'm making personally. So as you'll see, I'm trying to build a business called Aliora. In order to do that and to trial and test AI, what I actually did was I created a whole heap of dummy data. Now I'm just going to take you through some of that. So what this file is doing is it is basically telling me that I have all of these employees and they have an employee ID in my organization. They work for a particular department. They're obviously sitting at different levels of the organization. So some are staff, some are in the leadership team, some are general managers. What office they're located in. So I pretended that I had a multinational company working across the globe. I wanted to see who was on the bench and who wasn't. Now, this is really important when it comes to project work because I need to choose the best people that are available right now if I want to get started. So from that perspective, I wanted to create this bench report. And then I asked it to tell me how many days these people have been on the bench. And it was just really to help me understand who's available and who isn't. And then I just did some, summary data on all of this. So now, organizational capability. So where I started was actually with understanding the capability in my organization. And I'm going to reiterate this again. This is dummy data. It is all false. It is just created by ChatGPT. I asked it to pretend that I run a company that is global. I asked it to give me a set of employees. And I think in this particular file, I have a total of 4,000 employees working across the world. We have people in the chief technology office. We have people in the company secretary's office. We have the CEO. We have the finance team, human resources, legal, marketing, operations, and sales. Funnily enough, I don't have an IT team. I wonder if it's sitting under the CTO, probably. So there's one CEO, there's 8 directors, there's 40 general managers, there's 25 program managers, and then there are staff and team leads. So this is all how I structured my company. Now, another really important thing about the way I've done this, and by the way, everybody has an employee ID, a full name, their level, their role title, their department, their parent department, the office that they work in, the state or province that they work in, the country. I made an effort to put in their skills. Now, you'll see why when I do later episodes, but understanding people's skills is really, really important if we're wanting to use AI to help us with project delivery. Certifications and qualifications, really important. What do you have understanding of? And when we really think about P3M3's focus on competence, really important that you understand, are people actually competent in the job that we need them to do? And then there is years of experience in their field. There's years of experience in their present role, which is really important. The projects that they're working on at the moment, the success rates of the projects they're working on. Now, this is really, really important. I want to know how successful is the project that you're working on. So, not 85% success rate. I wonder if there's any really low ones in here. I don't know. I think the lowest is 72, which is probably not great. I should probably go in there and put a couple of 50s and 30s in just so that we can see how the system differentiates between people that are really good at project delivery and people that have had some duds. Secondary projects that they're working on and third projects that they're working on. And the reason why this is important is many organizations I work in, people can be working on 5, 10 projects. And we all know that it's an issue, but the unfortunate truth is it's, understanding how many projects people are actually working on is a really good way to understand, are they focused or are they not? because obviously when we are doing really important projects, we want focus. Me personally, if I were a CEO, I would not want my best performers working on 25 projects, because the reality is the 2 or 3 that are most important to our organization are not getting the focus that they need. And that is a really big deal, because we want those top priority projects to succeed more so than anything else, because we know they're going to move the strategic needle. So from that perspective, understanding how many projects your staff are working on is a really important piece of information. All right. So moving on, are they on the bench? How many days have they been on the bench, which was in my other data set? And then their manager's name and the manager's level. So as I mentioned, we've got about 4,000 people in this organization. I've also got a data dictionary in here that explains the data to AI. So that's fantastic. All right. So then I've got my capability matrix. Now, once again, I harped on about this recently, but capability is really, really, really important. So in here, once again, I used AI to develop my capability matrix. I wanted it to be really focused on project delivery, why project delivery is important, who this document is for. So it's for HR, it's for line managers, it's for delivery leads, and it's for strategy managers. And together these stakeholders form a network of support for project professionals, particularly accidental PMs, transitioning from technical roles and enabling them to thrive in complex, multidisciplinary environments. So the purpose is to provide an assessment tool. It's also to provide a development tool and career pathways for people. Project people often suffer with this lack of understanding our career pathway. I mean, once you get to portfolio lead, where to from there? Once you get to project director, where to from there? It seems like there's lots of sideways steps, but doesn't often feel like we have a very deep career pathway and trajectory. So really good to understand what your options are. And also alignment, to align the workforce capabilities with organizational needs, ensuring that project teams can deliver on strategic priorities. So this was all really important context about people and our organizational capability. And then, of course, I went into our delivery methods. So I wrote our delivery guide, our biases. I wrote a paper here about the biases that we see in project management, because it's really important to be able to evidence those when we are in delivery. And then I wrote some documents around our strategy, and I also put in here one that had been approved. So I did a couple of different versions that were presented to the board and one that was approved. Now, remembering, again, this is all dummy data. This is not real, but it could be. So what you'll see in here is a corporate strategy, a table of contents, our executive summary, and it basically just says that the company is an Australian headquartered technical consulting and managed services company with a global footprint and a workforce of over 4,000 professionals. Following its successful initial public offering in 2023, Achieve became an ASX-listed shareholder-owned organisation operating under the principles of transparency, good governance, and long-term value creation. The corporate strategy for financial year 25 to 28 sets the direction for Achieve's next phase of growth, and really the strategy is designed to strengthen our position, align every project within the corporate portfolio to a strategic pillar, and build a workforce capability. Then I wrote about our values, our strategic intent. Our strategic objectives were to grow recurring managed service revenue by 35% to improve project delivery success. Now, this is interesting because never in my life have I seen an organization create a strategic objective around improving project delivery success. Why do I think that's important? Because that's how we deliver change in our business. You would be shocked at how big the project delivery portfolio is in most businesses, and yet it is never a strategic objective to improve at your success rates. I find it quite bizarre. So I decided in my company, which is fake, I'm actually going to put that in as a strategic objective. Then we're going to increase our bench utilization. So I really want to make sure that we are using our resources as well as we possibly can. I want to achieve an employee engagement index of about 80%. I want to lift the company's net promoter score. I want to reach carbon neutral operations, and I want to ensure full compliance with ASX governance principles and ESG reporting. So I wanted to give it just some really clear objectives about what I want to achieve, how I want to do it, and then I've given it some more strategic drivers and internal capabilities. So remembering, I've got here as well metrics and an accountability framework. So who's accountable for each of these? How often is it going to be measured? What's our present baseline? What's our target? And how all of this is going to be reviewed, our operating rhythm, and how we're going to monitor and report, and how it links to portfolio management and continuous improvement. So that was my strategy. It seems a bit strange because I know that that's not what you would normally read in a strategy paper, but it seems to have worked. So that is my capability matrix and my strategy. And then I've got my portfolio register. Now, this is another key and important document. So in here, I've got all of the projects, the project name, a short description, the status of those projects and the category, the program theme, the priority, the risk rating, the approval to proceed, the proposed value of each of those projects, the sponsor's name, the PM that's assigned, the last project success percentage. Now, this is really important too. I wanted AI to know if the project people we were using had been successful in the past or not. Now, why was that important? It was important because I want to make sure that my best performing project managers that have the skills and capability are looking after my most important projects. Okay, really about skills, capability, and past performance. I wanted those three factors to drive where I put my most important projects. So this is going to be fun. The program manager that it's assigned to, any program name, if that applies, the required skills for that project. Now, I wanted the system to be really clear what kind of skills are needed to execute this project, because I think this is something that we sometimes overlook, especially when we use a lot of external consultants. What we tend to do is just say, okay, I'm just going to go out and get a consultant and I'm going to make it their responsibility to find the right skills. But I need to have people internally that really understand these things too and have the skills. Otherwise, how do you validate that what your consultant is doing is right? And I see a lot of organizations that treat their consultants as absolute experts and don't necessarily do that validation step very well. So I just wanted to put in here some required skills to make sure we all understand what are the skills that are necessary to get that project across the line. And do we have it internally? And do we need to develop it internally? So confidence. How confident am I that we're going to get this project across the line? I put in a confidence score. And then do I need external skills? Yes or no? Do I need an external vendor? Yes or no? What's my target start date? What's my target end date? What's the actual end date? Is there a budget variance at this point in time? Is there a schedule variance at this point in time? And the completion success rate. Okay, so that is my portfolio. Now, if you go over here to statuses, you'll see that I've got some projects that are in business casing, that are closed, that are in ideation and in flight. And some of them are part of a portfolio, so on and so forth. And then obviously I've got a high, medium, and low priority. And then I've got a high, medium, and low risk rating. All right, so that's my portfolio. And then one last thing, I've got some templates that I've created over time, and I've got some training materials. So from there, what I've done is I've started, number one, with a strategy discussion. So I said, hi, Claude, my name's Daniela. I run a company called Achieve. I would like your assistance with understanding my company's strategy and my list of projects. So I have a portfolio register in here. I have all of my projects that are in ideation, in business casing, in flight, and in closure mode. I really want to understand, considering our CapEx spend and our strategic drivers for 2025 to 2028, which projects should I be working on? Which ones should stop and which ones should continue, with a real focus on achieving that strategy. So from there, I loaded in all of my strategy documents. And what I loaded in were the documents that you had seen, which was all around the capability of the organization, my strategy paper that was approved by the board, as well as my portfolio list, my portfolio register. So here, he's asked me for the portfolio register and he's asked me for the strategic plan, which I then provided. From there, all I need is the instruction as an MD file to load into my Claude project, so it can help me do this. So it helped me create an MD file for portfolio analysis so that it could be my Claude Achieve Portfolio Strategic Advisor. And then I was able to copy that, which was fantastic. So from there, it took all of that data, and basically I asked it 2 questions. And number 1 started with, okay, we only have 20 million in CapEx to spend. I want to know what you think we should stop, start, or continue. And the great thing about this was it looked through my active portfolio and it recognized that the portfolio is presently 227.8 million in proposed value across 301 projects, but you're telling me you only have 20 million to spend in the next 12 months. And that's an 11-to-1 overcommitment ratio, which was great. So the Strategic Act is not choosing what to start, it's deciding what to stop. So the great thing about this was it looked at my strategic drivers, so my customer excellence and growth, my digital innovation, my operational discipline, and my people, culture, and governance strategic drivers. It had a look at those strategic focus. It looked at what the targets were for financial year 28, and it said your $20 million investment must flow primarily to pillars 2 and 3, digital innovation and delivery discipline, because these are the multipliers that unlock the rest. Pillar 4, compliance and governance, gets a protected slice because regulatory failure is existential for an ASX-listed company. So the great thing about that was it then went on to say in step 2, the in-flight portfolio assessment, you have 100 in-flight projects totaling 71.9 million. This is your immediate obligation. Sunk cost, logic aside, these are live commitments, and my assessment by pillar was that there was 34 in people and culture, there were 32 projects in operational discipline, 18 in digital innovation, and 16 in customer excellence. 5 in-flight projects have a budget overruns of 15% and must be reviewed immediately. So it had a look at some of those projects and basically looked at the budget variance and the schedule variance, and it gave me some advice on what to do. So escalating to the sponsor, reset the scope or stop, reviewing it, marginal strategic value, high dual variance, so exception reports are required, compliance critical, manage tightly but continue. And this one was a small project but managed within tolerance. So P3M3 principles apply. If the business case no longer stacks up, stop it, regardless of sunk cost. So then step 3, what to start in the next 12 months. From the 20 business casing projects approved to proceed status, 8 meet the threshold of high priority, high strategic alignment and delivery confidence over 75%. So it's basically giving me the projects that are most likely to succeed. And then step 4, what to stop or pause. And it's given me those projects as well. A lot of this based on the fact that it is a high cost, a high risk, and a very low confidence. Okay, so it's saying stop here because low confidence, high risk, indirect alignment. Pause this one, it's important but underprepared, so revisit this in quarter 3. Pause this one, wait for the pioneer stream to land first. Pause this one, stage gate work, consolidate with existing PMO uplift projects. Stop this one, it's a duplicate with some SEO work. Stop this one, it's low priority and high risk. Pause this one because security is a priority, but confidence needs improving. And pause this one because compliance critical, rebaseline before proceeding. So this is all fantastic. Then the Aliora project, I want you to call this one out directly. Aliora build and development, 1.87 million, currently at ideation or pipeline stage with approval to business case, is one of the highest alignment investments in this entire portfolio. It touches Pillar 2, digital innovation, and Pillar 3, operational discipline, simultaneously, and it directly supports your ability to hit the 90% delivery success rate target by financial year 27. So the recommendation is to accelerate the business case, get it to business case approval within Q1 of financial year 26, and the confidence rating shows as medium, and that's a data gap, not a capability problem. And this one deserves resource priority to socialize the case. So that's fantastic. Step 5, CapEx allocation recommendations. So it's telling me that this is where I should spend my money and what the rationale is and what the amount is. And then the top 3 actions for me to do immediately, which is to run an in-flight triage session this month with 100 live projects and $20 million envelope. You need a formal portfolio health check, which makes total sense. Issue a memorandum on new ideation approvals until Q2 of financial year 26. You have 151 ideation pipeline projects, 116 million in proposed value. None of that moves forward without a clear strategic alignment case mapped to one of the 4 pillars. So introduce a formal intake gate. And then number 3, accelerate the Aliora business case. So it's giving me some really clear instructions. Now, in order to confuse the system, what I then went back and did was I said, actually, I've spoken to the CEO and he's decided to extend CapEx to 80 million for next year. So from 20 million that I originally suggested to 80 million. So unlock some more capital investment. What Claude has then done is gone and redone its assessment based on the new CapEx envelope. So once again, it's having a look at all of that. And then I said, okay, what I want you to do now is actually give me a presentation that I can go and take to my CEO and some sort of recommendation paper. And this was fantastic because I've obviously programmed it with all of my colors and my tone and all that kind of stuff. So it's giving me this great report with an executive summary about the $80 million envelope and what it can do. It can protect and continue all 100 in-flight projects. It can launch 9 high priority projects, high alignment business casing projects, and it can retain a 388K contingency reserve. So that's really good news. It's able to reforecast my entire portfolio based on a new constraint. It's given me some strategic content about my strategic pillars for the next 3 years, a portfolio overview of the $80 million envelope. So it's telling me that I've got 100 projects that are in flight. We're going to add some new ones and we're going to still have our management reserve, which is fantastic. It's recommended some new starts. So these are the projects it's recommending I start. Projects to defer to the next cycle. So 11 of the business case approved projects will not commence in financial year 26. These projects either carry insufficient delivery confidence, elevated risk ratings without adequate mitigations, or represent areas where Achieve is already overinvested relative to strategic returns. And then, of course, it's given me some in-flight portfolio risks, some featured initiatives. The featured initiative, which is the Aliora AI project management tool, because it was one of my strategic pillars to improve project delivery success rates, which was fantastic. And by the way, it also gave it to me as a PowerPoint with some graphs. I loved this little quote: every project in this portfolio is a promise to our shareholders. Love it. So that was how I have used voice and my skills to take my portfolio, my strategy, and my list of projects and be able to actually do something with it that is meaningful, which is how do I plan out my portfolio considering my constraints and the kinds of information that is good to have in order for tools like Claude to be able to give you assistance. Now, Lastly, I haven't yet shown you CoWork, and I'm really conscious of that, and I will do this in our next session. I just thought today was a good way to just start proceedings by giving you some introductory information. So I'll be able to show you how we can use Claude CoWork to do some of our project work and make our lives a little bit easier so that we have the time to focus on the stuff that we're really good at, whilst Claude can do some of the manual, heavy lifting work that we tend to get bogged down in every single day. Really looking forward to the next episode. It's DK from Powering Projects signing out. The content provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute professional, legal, or financial advice. The opinions expressed by the host, guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of any affiliated organisations or sponsors. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information on project management methodologies and related topics, no guarantee is made regarding the completeness, accuracy, or applicability of the content to your specific circumstances. Listeners are encouraged to consult with qualified professionals before making decision based on the information shared in this podcast. The hosts, guests, and producers are not liable for any losses, damages, or outcomes resulting from the use of this podcast's content. By listening to this podcast, you agree to assume all risks associated with the application of the information provided. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll find value in our discussions.